The views and opinions expressed by the individuals in the following program do not necessarily reflect those of Metaphor Creative Media, its parent, or its affiliates.
As police officers, we're witness to some of the most amazing things in life. Some comical, some horrendous, and some just plain miraculous. When asked why you went into law enforcement, most officers will tell you, because it's like having a front row seat to the greatest show on earth. Today, we saved you a front row seat. This is Copservations.
From Broadcast Beat Studios in Oakland Park, Florida, Metaphor Creative Media presents a show that gives you a personal glimpse of what law enforcement officers see and do in their typical and not so typical day of work. From walking the beat to detective, Rob has 35 years of law enforcement experience. Although the staff are all active or former law enforcement, any views, opinions, and all other show content are in no way official views, statements, or policies of any law enforcement agency. To talk to our hosts, call the podcast studio at area code 954-210-5413. That's 954-210-5413.
Hello again, and welcome to Copservations, your front row seat to the greatest show on earth. I'm Rob, your host. For those of you who are joining us for the first time, we broadcast live every Thursday night at 7 p.m. from the Broadcast Beat Studios, located in Oakland Park, Florida. Here on Copservations, we attempt to give you a personal glimpse of what law enforcement officers go through on a daily basis. We'll also talk about recent happenings and the latest hot topics pertaining to law enforcement. We've got a great discussion lined up for you today. In particular, we'll be talking about the disturbing allegations of the Chicago Chamber of Commerce hosting an event where children were encouraged to bash a piñata that was made to look like an ICE agent. In case you didn't know, the producers here at Copservations encourage viewer participation. So if you have a comment or question, or even a story you'd like to share and would like to be part of the discussion, we've got Ashley back there working on the phone lines who can't wait to say hello. So give the podcast studio a call at 954-210-5413. I've had the honor and pleasure of knowing and working with my guest tonight for the last 18 years. I met him back in 2001 after just being hired by the local sheriff's office. My field training officer happened to be off that day, so they put me with him, and I'm so glad that they did. He's a great guy. We all know and love him as Richie B. Richie, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. Absolute pleasure to be here. For those of you that don't know Rob, as this is just fairly new, very well respected, currently a detective. Everybody loves Rob, and Rob's the greatest guy to have when there is an issue. There's never a bad word about Rob Lerner, so thank you so much for having me on. It's a pleasure.
Thanks, and I'll give you the $5 after the show.
You got it. That's 10.
That's not what we agreed upon.
All right.
You know, it's funny, 18 years ago we met, and it seems like yesterday. And from the time I met you and worked with you, it was always one laugh after another.
True. Absolutely. It's been a fun time. It's been a great ride. No doubt about it.
Richie, you've been with the sheriff's office now for how many years?
Yeah, well, it's going on 30 years, and the way I figure it is, listen, if I work till I'm 80, I'll run out of money at 81. So that, I'm going to stay a while longer. I have a daughter in college. We're going to try to work that out there and make sure everything's all paid off. And I love my job. I have the greatest job in the world, currently in K-9. So I'm thrilled to death to be there, and I love every aspect of the job. It's fantastic.
And it's good to have a plan, and I'm glad you have one. 80, it's pretty good. It's impressive.
I can do it.
If anybody can, I know you can.
That's it.
You absolutely can.
And now that they're throwing the water on us, that's good. That'll keep me cool in the summer, because in Florida it gets very hot, so you get a nice water bucket. That's always a pleasure. It's added extra.
It is, and thank God you're not made out of sugar, because you know what would have happened.
That's true.
You'd melt.
Right.
So let me ask you a question. People always ask me, why'd you get into law enforcement? So I'm asking you, what made you get into this profession?
Well, I was a high school teacher down in North Miami. Loved it. Nominated Teacher of the Year back in '89 or '90. It was a fantastic job. It was great. I had a next door neighbor that was a police officer. He told me all about the perks. And I said, listen, why wouldn't I want to help people? Why wouldn't I want to do something that's exciting and fun? And I jumped right into it. And I've had a great career. I started in the jail. I was in training. I've been all different everywhere. And now I've landed in K-9 for the last 10 or 12 years, and I just absolutely love it. And I got to tell you something. Dealing with fun and nice people is the greatest job in the world. If you could deal with nice people on a daily basis, it's absolutely fantastic. And that's what we do.
Well, and what's the worst thing about dealing?
Yeah, well, and then again, there's some people that aren't nice. You know, people ask me every day. They say, oh, I know what you're going through. Oh, it's such a tough time now. They might be right, but here's the bottom line. I haven't seen it. The nice people are still nice, and the bad people are still bad. It doesn't change. It's the same exact thing. In fact, the nice people are even nicer. They come over to you, they tell you they're behind you. Fantastic. There is a difference between good and evil. Good people are good, and bad people are bad. And when everybody does realize that, things are going to get so much better so quickly, it's unbelievable. But yeah, it's fantastic.
Very well said.
Thanks.
Very good.
Thanks. I didn't write it down.
I know. I like your I like your enthusiasm. You know, when I met you, it was shortly after 9/11. It's when I started with the sheriff's office. I started in September. It was September 17th I started with them. And I didn't have to go through the academy because they accepted my training from New York. But I did have to go through a comparative compliance class, which consisted of approximately 92 hours of training. It was broken up with classroom training and in the field. And this was shortly after the anthrax powder scare started.
Yes.
You know, and at that time, I believe 5 people were killed and 17 were injured when they received envelopes that contained anthrax spores. And it seemed like every other call was suspicious powder. Everybody got an envelope. If they received mail from somebody they didn't know, it's suspicious, and we had to go check it out. On the day that I met you, my training officer wasn't available, so they said, hey, we're going to put you with Richie today. And I was like, all right. And they said, hey, by the way, he's from New York as well. So I was doing the 4 to 12, and the day was pretty uneventful. I remember we had a lot of conversation. It was a good time. We were talking about sports and family matters. And then it was sometime about 5 o'clock, 5 in the afternoon, we got a call for a possible anthrax powder at University Hospital. Do you remember that?
I remember it, yeah.
I remember it, and I turned to you and I said, hey, listen, I don't know, maybe you want to drop me off because I got to be in the classroom at 6. And you looked at me and said, that's probably nonsense. Don't worry, we'll go there. And we'll be out of there in 2 minutes if it's nothing, and if it's something, I'll have somebody come pick you up.
Okay, the thing you're not saying that you're not telling everybody is that we used to get anthrax calls every day. In fact, the day before, because he's going to tell you what I did. I was a moron. I saw the white powder. I kicked it over. I said, let's get the hell out of here. And then the next thing you know, they're coming in with the suits, the spaceman suits. I said, for God's sakes, what did we do? And we almost had to get naked. It was miserable. I can't even imagine it naked outside with the cameras were all over the place. Mortifying. But here's the thing. But here's the thing you don't know. The thing you don't know is the day before, I got called to a house for white powder. I looked at the white powder. I said, that's white powder. Oh, God, maybe this is real. And they had a Dunkin' Donuts box. A Dunkin' Donuts box sitting right there. I looked at it. The powdered donut crap was all over the place. For God's sakes. We were getting it every day. But that was torturous.
All right, now back to my story.
Yeah, it was bad. I apologize.
Yes, because
I never admitted it.
I want to tell it the way it really happened. So we pull up to the back of the hospital, University Hospital, and fire rescue's parked towards the back of the parking lot. And you looked at me and said, all right, you wait in the car. I'll be right out. And I said, no, we're partners. Partners going together.
True.
If you're going in, I'm going in. The only time we separate and you're going by yourself is if, hey, one of us has to go to the bathroom. And we went in and we made contact with the nurse who informed us that there was a woman in isolation. And earlier that day, she received a package with some powder in it. And when she opened it up, the powder got into her face and she now has a sore. Okay, so they isolated her and they emptied out the emergency waiting room, and the package was right where she left it, on the chair. So we go in, and they don't like to admit it. You walk over and gave it the kick test. and just by kicking this package of powder, you decided it was nonsense.
Right.
And
Yeah, so I haven't admitted that to this day, but the statute of limitations is long over. Nobody's looking for me anymore with that nonsense. That was my mistake, and I apologize
Right.
for the first time. I'm going to tell you that. That was wrong. Did you make the meeting? No, that's the important thing.
Well, we'll get to that.
Yeah.
We'll get to that. So now we're about to leave the emergency room, and as we're walking at the back, I find out why they were staging, because it was the hazardous material unit.
Yes.
And they're now standing there in full regalia with the suits and the helmets and the gloves, and they tell us you can't leave. And I said, what do you mean we can't leave? Oh, you can't leave. We have to decontaminate you. And I said, what does that mean? And you, in all your glory and excitement, oh, it's great. We're going to get naked. I was, what? Yeah, we got to get naked. They're going to set up an area and we're going to get naked and they're going to wash us all down. I said, are you kidding me? Oh, no, yeah, we get naked. We're all getting naked. Doctors have to get naked. Nurses have to get naked. And I was like, are you kidding me? And I didn't mind the part with the doctors and nurses because it was all women. But I had apprehensions about getting naked myself.
I was married for 15 years at that time. At that time, I would be happy to get naked with anyone at that time after being married for so long. I'm just kidding. But the thing is, she's a wonderful woman. But anyway, but the bottom line is, yes, no, it was my fault, and thank God we didn't have to do that at the last second.
Thank God,
They
because I
cleared
didn't want
it.
to embarrass you. Because
Right.
I would have looked at you, and they
Right.
would have looked at me, and they would have laughed at one of us.
Yes, I agree.
And when we left, I remember looking at you and saying, thank you very much. I did 17 years in New York, never had a problem, not a hitch. I'm with you 4 hours. I'm exposed to anthrax. I'm getting naked, and I'm getting decontaminated.
Great.
It was an experience that I'll always cherish.
Yep. That was excellent. Good times.
Yes, it was, and it's been one laugh after another.
Sure has.
And If you can't laugh on this job, there's no reason to go to work.
Very true.
We're going to take a break, but I want to remind everybody, if you'd like to call in with a comment, question, or even a story, the lines are open, so give us a call. The number is 954-210-5413.
Are your children in the right car seat for their age and size? Is the seat supposed to be forward-facing or rear-facing? Did they move to a booster seat too soon? It may be too late to check when you're on the road. Fortunately, you're on the couch. Car crashes are a leading killer of children 1 to 13. Don't think you know. Know you know.
Hi. Hoping for a crisp breeze to help keep you alert. Oh, he took a sip of water too. That'll probably help. You were probably gonna turn down the radio too, so you could focus, right?
Probably okay isn't okay.
Right.
If you see a warning sign, stop and call a cab, a car, or a friend.
I think the water line is what really drove it home. I blew on him.
To talk to our hosts, call the podcast studio at area code 954-210-5413. That's 954-210-5413.
Welcome back to Copservations. Today we're talking to my guest and good friend, Richie B. Richie, thank you again for taking the time out to join me on this adventure.
Yeah, absolute pleasure. Just one thing very quickly, and then we'll go to whatever you have to go to. He's a very modest guy, so he's not going to talk about it, but he actually wrote a fantastic book, and the book's name is Copservations. In fact, this is an offshoot of his book, and that's due out in 2020. And I was lucky enough to get an advance copy of that book, and let me tell you something, fantastic. If anyone really wants to know the inner workings of what goes on in the police department and what you can do, actually even has a thing in there, how to get out of tickets. It's just absolutely funny, and it's fantastic. So seriously, I loved it. I read it in literally 2 days. That's how great it was. So thanks for that copy. I appreciate it.
You're very welcome, and I'll give you the $10 after the
That's
show.
now it's up to 15.
Inflation. All right, and I believe we have a caller on the line, our first caller
Beautiful.
for the evening, and let's give it a shot. Hello, you're on the air. Copservations.
Hello, this is Simon. I see you wearing the Trump shirt. Do the police like Trump?
Boy, that's a great question, Simon. Thanks for asking it. So, do the police like Trump? So, I can't tell you what the police like. I am a police officer, and I have loads of friends in the police. But what wouldn't you like? Would you not
I
like
agree.
see, that's it, because Simon knows what he's saying. That's why he calls this show, because he's brilliant. Listen, Simon, what wouldn't you like? You tell me, would you not like the lowest African-American unemployment of all time? Would you not like the lowest Hispanic unemployment of all time? Would you not like the lowest Asian-American unemployment of all time? Would you not like almost the lowest
Crazy.
female? They're crazy. If they don't like them, there's an issue, there's a problem. So, yes, I'll speak for me and the people that I surround myself with. Possibly the best president of all time, and I love everything that he says.
Well, I like hearing that. I like your shirt. I like hearing that. God bless you guys. Thank you for what you do.
You are the best of the best.
Hey, Simon, thanks for calling in. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
You'll get the $10 tomorrow, too.
That was awesome, awesome. You have some smart listeners.
You know, Richie, being a police officer is often a thankless job. And it's a job that's scrutinized not only by the public that we serve, but also by our peers. And it's really easy to be a Monday morning quarterback when you've never played the game, or you've never been part of it, and you've never experienced it. It's easy to judge and think, what did they do right, what did they do wrong? And I say, don't judge a man until you've walked a mile in his shoes. Well, Copservations is what we want to use to put people in those shoes, to get a feeling of what it's like to experience it.
Yeah, and it's a very tough question to answer, because if you haven't been there, you really don't know. But let me give you an example. So they're calling it, I think, the Pallian, I forgot his name, the one that had the mishap. Yes, from New York.
Yes.
The one that had the problem with Garner.
Yes,
the one,
Eric Garner.
what was his name? Do you remember?
Palateo.
Something like, yeah. So they call it the Palateo effect. And here's the situation. So what I want you to do is I really want you to think about that situation. 2 seconds, I'm going to run it down, and you tell me after I explain it, what should the police do? So you get a report that somebody's selling stuff in front of just loose cigarettes. Nothing, they say. It was nothing. He's selling it in front of a supermarket type of store, and they called with a complaint. The deputy goes down there and he says, hey, man, do me a favor, stop selling those cigarettes. And he says, hell no. Now, he wasn't 5'2" and 120 pounds. That was a big man, and it's very unfortunate that he passed away. It's horrible. But here's the thing. If he had just complied,
Absolutely.
If he just complied. In fact, all of these things that have happened over the last several years is if they would have just complied. Yesterday, you had a Democratic nonsense going on where they actually were calling for his firing, even though he was exonerated.
It was
today.
sickening. It was sickening to listen to.
Disgusting, disgraceful. I mean, it's absolutely, and it goes back to what I was saying before. Be nice, be good, do the right thing, and none of this will ever happen. So I don't think it's a thankless job, Rob. I gotta tell you, I love the job. And the people are, 99% of the people are so nice. We can't go out to eat where they're not trying to buy our food. I always say no, and then we buy theirs, and it's a whole thing. But it's a love affair with the people. The press portrays it as, and it's nonsense. It's common sense, and it's nonsense the way they portray it. So I think the majority of people are fantastic, and I love seeing them every day. I really do.
You know, on that point too, you know, it's always been a field. Yeah, you're right. It's not a thankless job, 100%, and there are more people that support us than don't. And there are times when people come up to you and for no reason at all, and they say, hey, thank you for your service.
Awesome.
Thank you for what you do. And I call it a feel-good moment.
Yes.
It makes you appreciate what you do, and it's not a lot. It's not a lot when people say it, but it makes you feel good. It's like, hey, you know what? I'm doing the right thing. I'm in the right job. I'm doing what I enjoy. Getting back to what you said about Eric Garner, I had touched on that last week. It's all about compliance. You don't like what's going on? You don't have to like it, but you have to comply. You comply. Half the deaths that happen because of non-compliance, okay, and resisting arrest wouldn't. You comply. You put your hands behind the back. You go with the program. You don't like it. There are different avenues. Hire an attorney. Sue the police department. Go to internal affairs if you didn't feel that you were treated justly. The time to argue or resist is not at the time of the episode, whether it be a traffic stop or an arrest, a physical arrest. But you're right. That death was totally avoidable.
And you know, what is the police officer supposed to do? After Eric Garner says, no, I'm not leaving. And I don't want to try his case. It was already done. But after Eric Garner says he's not leaving, what should the police officer say? Okay, listen, I can't do anything. He said he doesn't want to leave. So you know what? He can still sell the cigarettes. And now the guy who has the store is losing the money. He's calling and he's angry. It is so... There's just a common sense factor. And I believe it's there. I believe it's just being hidden by the press for political reasons. And that's it. That's it.
You know, another example is that there are videos that are surfacing all over the place with people not complying with the police. There was one recently, and I don't remember what state it was, but I believe the woman was about 68 years old. And the officer was going to give her a ticket. I don't know if she was driving with a expired registration for the past 6 months, and he was going to give her a ticket, but she wasn't taking it. She said, no, I don't agree with it. I don't think I should get a ticket that's going to cost me $80. And at some point she takes off, and it escalated from just getting a ticket and going to court and paying a fine. It escalated to her fleeing, him chasing her down, taking her out of the car, actually literally ripping her out because she was resisting. She wouldn't get out. You know, our job is to enforce the law. We don't make the laws, but we enforce them.
Right.
And at some point, as he was trying to arrest her, she tried to kick him. So he wound up tasing her. Instead of getting physical with her and beating her and punching her, he tased her to get her to comply. And afterwards, they were talking, and she said, well, you know, I wasn't taking the ticket. And he said, well, you kicked me. She said, that's because I'm a country girl. And it was like, it's all about compliance. It makes it a lot easier.
And very well said, you know, but when political people are on TV vilifying police for doing what they do to help people, you know, I'm sure you've had the same situations. I have seen lives ruined, people devastated from what people call minor crimes very quickly. Some people think, breaking into a car, it's a minor crime. They shouldn't even bother with the jail. It's really nothing. Unless, of course, it's theirs. But I have been to places where they might be younger girls or younger boys, 12, 13. I've seen older people, 70s in their 80s. I've even seen middle-aged, 30, 40. I'm an old man, so to me that's middle-aged.
You're ancient.
I'm ancient. But the bottom line is, though, they never feel safe again. Now, it's different if it happens out in somewhere else. But if they're in front of their house and at 3 o'clock in the morning you hear that shatter, and you know, everybody's a tough guy, everybody the next morning, everybody thinks that if you hit them with the taser, they get knocked out cold. Everybody thinks if you throw one punch, the guy gets knocked out cold. That's not reality. It's not reality at all. And I've seen these people absolutely devastated and not feel safe in their home, not feel safe anywhere, because of something as minor as a car break-in. Can you imagine when their house gets broken into? It's sad and it's devastating to people, but the people don't hear that from the press. And that's a shame, and that's a shame. And then you're vilified by public officials, and that is disgraceful, what's going on right now with the left. It's terrible. It's terrible.
You know, I listened to the debate last night, the Democratic debate, and I don't like to get political.
Me neither.
Or discuss politics, because it's strange relationships. But I was watching it last night, and after about 10 minutes, I had to shut it off.
Yeah.
Because they were all making comments about how they were going to hold the police accountable, and everything was going after the police, and how Eric Garner is going to get justice, and the police officer should have been arrested.
Still invoking Michael Brown.
Yes.
Still invoking that was absolutely 100% a lie and made up. Still invoking the name. They did it last night.
Yes, they do.
Disgraceful.
And the reason I find that I believe they're doing it is they're playing to an audience that's anti-police.
Right.
Okay, and that's what they're playing to, an anti-police audience, hoping, hey, this is going to garner me votes because I'm going to go after those officers. Even though they did nothing wrong, I'm going to hold them responsible for something.
Yeah, no, I'm with you 100%. It's terrible.
You know, there are times in our profession that you have to make a split-second decision, and that decision can make the difference between life and death. Ours or somebody else's. And prior to making that decision, if it's pulling a trigger, we have to go through a mental checklist through our minds. Am I justified? If I shoot and I miss, is there anybody else in harm's way? Is that a real weapon? And we've all heard the stories, and it's been in the news countless times over the years, different states. Nobody's immune to it. Is it a real weapon? And I remember back in New York years ago, there was an ingenious perp that painted a MAC-10 submachine gun green to make it look like a toy.
Right.
So now, when that's pointed at you, the sad thing with that is if you hesitate for 1 second too long, you might not be going home at the end of the day.
Right, and it's and again, let's go right back to it, Rob. It's common sense. You're not painting a gun green to make it look like a toy. You're not doing any of this. It's just common sense. You don't do that, right? So how does the police officer know? They don't. Let me just tell you one quick story, very troubling to me personally. I was in the gun store. I needed to grab a gun, so I bought a gun. And while I was in there, a fantastic couple. This is not an older couple, so it's not somebody that they seem, middle-aged, and they were looking at the guns, and they look at me and they say to me, I was in uniform, and they said to me, hey, what do you think is the best defense for my wife? That's what he said. They were together. And I said, I was going to defer to the person who was selling the guns. They know a lot more about guns than I do, so I was going to defer. And he said, I don't think we're ready for a gun. He said, what about these? And they were tasers. And I looked at it, and they were looking at a cattle prod, huge taser, this big. I said, I don't want to tell them what's right and what's wrong, but I said, they're going to take that away from her, and they're going to use it on her. And he said, in his mind, and this is from watching movies and watching TV and listening to the nonsense on the news, they all think that if you hit somebody with a taser, they're out cold, you got to put the water on them, you got to do the smelling salts, when in reality, none of that is true. It's just so silly. In fact, a handheld taser will get the perp much angrier. That's all it'll do. It's just so silly. And there's only one on the market that you could shoot, and that you drop and you run. It's so scary to me, the misinformation.
Let me put you on timeout for a second. We've got a caller that's been out here patiently waiting.
Sorry.
Camille, and I don't want her to wait too long. I don't want to lose her.
Great.
Hello. Hey, Camille.
Hello?
Hey.
Hi. How are you?
Good. Sorry you waited so long.
That's okay. That's fine. What I'm going back to is the point when you and Richie were discussing about the media. But I think the other issue comes into play is because people have the cell phones. So what they do now, they edit what they send in to the media. They edit everything. So they're only going to see, you're not going to see what happened before. You're only going to see the middle and possibly to the end. You're going to see where the escalation is, but not what caused the escalation at that time. And the problem is it's giving that dim view of, the police at that point.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's a really hard situation. And also I guess because when you see what's going on in the city of New York, you could tell I'm a New Yorker.
I thought it was I thought it was Texas. That accent, right?
Even though I live in Delaware, but they don't back up the police anymore. There's no backup. There's no respect anymore given. So how are the public, supposed to respect the police department or the fighter, any first responder, when there's none given from the majors, the big shots?
She's right.
Yeah.
That becomes another, it's like a parent teaching a child. If I'm telling my kid, don't do this, smoking's not good for you, but I have a cigarette in my mouth, well, what do you think the kid's going to do and look at me?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Absolutely. It all starts at home. It all starts at home. That's what it's learned.
It does. But now, for us, it's starting with the politicians. They're causing a lot of issues. They're picking on certain little hot buttons, and they're not helping the situation. They're only escalating it.
No, you're absolutely right.
And people are they're falling into it. They're just going along with, oh yeah, he's right. Oh yeah, this is what's going on. So it's just, I think it's, aside from the media, it's a combination of things. Media doesn't help, but it's a lot of things going on.
It's like anything else. Anything negative is immediately portrayed in the news, where a lot of the good things that happen every day are not. It's because it's the negative things that sell news and get people to read the stories, and that's part of the problem.
Yeah, because it's a biased situation. They're not going to show really when a police officer, like I watched Live PD, that he was fooling around with kids, dancing with them. He was a white cop. There were African American children, and he was dancing, and just to make them not be afraid of him. to show encouragement,
Sure.
but they're not going to show that in the regular media. They're not going to show all the different things that go on, all the positives, and that's another issue.
You know, just real quick, just to touch on that, because you mentioned the videos. I have a cousin who lives in New York, and there are videos going on now with these cops dancing, doing some type of cowboy dance. And she sent me a request, say, hey, listen, I know you can do this, you know, and
Yeah.
it's just never going to happen. I can't dance.
No,
So-
but the sad part is, as a police officer, you have to now become entertainment for them to maybe respect you or to listen. And at one time, I'm 58 years old. That wasn't the way. We grew up respecting cops.
Absolutely.
You know,
Yep.
yes, sir, no, sir. You know, not anymore.
No. Nope. You know, we had that discussion.
So it's really, but, you know, I applaud anyone who was a first responder, you know, like you, like Richie, and anyone else, because it's getting harder and harder.
Yes, it
It's
is.
a really, really tough field to be in. And I'm glad Richie still has rose-colored glasses in his field. I'm becoming cynical over it.
Listen, I love it. I love every minute of it. Thank you so much for the call, Camille. You are the best of the best. Another great Rob Lerner listener. Fantastic.
Thanks, Camille. You have a great night. Thanks for calling.
Thank you. You too. Take care.
Bye-bye. Hang on, Rich. The phone lines are burning up. And
Great
we have,
point about the camera. We'll maybe if we have time, we'll go back to the cameras after that. Yep. If you got another call,
Let
great.
me try and grab Lauren.
You got two good ones.
Okay.
So,
Hello. Lauren.
Hello?
Hey, Lauren, you're on the air.
Hi.
How are you?
Hello.
Good, how are you?
Okay.
I was wondering if you guys can give me any hints about getting out of any tickets.
I love that. I think that's a great question. Can I grab that one?
Just don't say anything that you.
Listen, I'm telling you, go get a pen. Everybody listening right now, get a paper. I'm going to give you the secret. I'm going to give you the secret right now, where I can guarantee to 99% effectiveness that you will never get a ticket.
Well, I want to write
if
this
you
down,
do what?
too. I
Yes,
wanna write this
absolutely.
down.
And if you don't have a pen, use a crayon, because I'm telling you, I'm only going to tell you once, but I'm doing it. I don't care if it puts every police department out of business. I'm going to tell you exactly how to get out of a ticket.
Oh, my.
Here's the way it works. So first you have to understand what a police officer does. If you notice, when a police officer walks up to you when you've done something wrong, they stick their hand on the back of the trunk. Do you know why? You have any idea why they do that? No? Okay, good. I'm going to tell you why. I just wanted to see. It would have been amazing. It would have made the show great. But here's the reason why. We put our hands on the trunk just to put our fingerprints there, because God forbid you do something horrible to the police officer and then you escape, they can check to make sure that was definitively the vehicle that was involved in the crime. So I need you to understand that when a police officer comes over to you, he may not be the nicest guy in the world. He may not say, hey, how are you? I do that sometimes. Can I get your driver's license or your registration? He may be seeming very brusque to you. He may seem mean to you. He may seem horrible to you, but you still can get out of that ticket so easily. And here's the way it works. If you were going 60 or 70 miles an hour in a 40-mile-an-hour zone, you know what you did wrong. It's common sense. You know what you did. If you were weaving around, you know what you did. So when he comes over to you and he says, hello, ma'am, I need your license, your registration, and your insurance card, you tell me, Lauren, what should your answer be?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Here it is.
ding,
That's
ding,
it.
ding.
I'm so sorry. Oh, my God. And when he says, because some do, and it's a little aggravating, I know, because you're a good person. The person getting pulled over says, I'm a good person. I like the cops. Why aren't they so nice to me? But here's the thing. He doesn't know. He doesn't know if you're a good person. So he may be a tough guy or a tough girl. He may seem like he is. But if you're nice, and you say, oh, my God, when he says, what did you do? You say, oh, God, I think I was speeding. I think I was doing this. I made a quick left. Oh, my God, I'm so sorry. 9 out of 10 cops will not write a real ticket. Now there's animals in every job, for God's sakes, but most of them will not give you the ticket. And here's the real kicker. If you have a clean license, you've never gotten a ticket, and you use exactly what I said, very few will give you a ticket. Nobody wants to be the first guy that gives or girl that gives a clean driver's license who's super nice a ticket. I can honestly say, and I've written a lot of tickets, but I have never in my career, this is true, I have never given a nice person a ticket. I just haven't. I haven't had to. And that's great. Now, with the cameras, it's a little tougher. Our discretion has been taken away, correct?
Yes, absolutely.
A little bit, because here's the thing, and this is going to be a little controversial, and I don't listen. It's the truth, so I can say it. But here's the thing. You have to be very careful. Now I'm videoing you doing something wrong, and I may be letting you go. And if you do what I said, I will let you go. But here's the thing. I have to make sure that I do that evenly. I know it's stupid, because let me tell you something. I've been with cops for 30 years, and not one has ever said, hey, let's go get the Jewish person today. Let's go get the black person. Hey, I got to get myself an Asian guy. It just doesn't happen. It's make-believe nonsense. Has that happened to you?
No,
of
never,
course.
never.
You just want to pull your hair up. So it just, none of that happens. None of that's real. If you're nice and you have a clean record and you do the right thing, 9 times out of 10, the cop's not there to hurt you. They're there to help you. They want you to be happy. They want you to be safe. In fact, most of the time, we're there giving tickets because people have complained about speeding, or people have complained about people in the area doing the wrong thing. So that's why we're there. It's for you. It's for the people. It has nothing to do with anything else in any way. Is that a good answer?
That's a good answer. Hey, listen, Lauren, and if Richie's advice doesn't work, you call the show back. I will give you his address, and you can send the ticket to him, and he'll pay it for you.
I'll pay it.
I'll do that for sure.
Sounds good.
Trust
Thanks.
me, I will.
All right, great.
Awesome.
Thank you for calling.
All right. Thank you.
Take care.
Boy, you got some great callers, bro. I got to tell you, there's some smart people that listen to this show. This is nice. I love this.
That went very well.
Good for you, man.
Oh, good for you. So, anyhow, where were we?
Oh.
Well, I know we were talking about the decisions. I said, we have to go to that mental checklist and all that with the perpetrators. Unfortunately, when we do make that decision, it was based upon that perception right there at that single second where we had to act. And unfortunately, once it's done, the powers that be of the general public can sit back in the safety of their own homes or their offices and Monday morning quarterback that decision to death. And that's a sad thing too.
Sure, and we say that the civilian people do it, non-police officers, but don't police officers do it too?
All the time.
We go to an in-service class, and by the way, training is great, and our department is phenomenal. Love every minute of being there, and I don't have anything negative to say. Very few people can go to a job every day where they don't have something negative to say. I don't. I love my job. I love the people I work with. But sometimes in training, we do the same exact thing, right? We do the Monday morning quarterback. They show us the video of the police officer that may have gotten hurt. And most of us sit there and we're very angry, because we don't know what happened exactly during that situation. Only the guys that were there know. And that, I think it was Camille.
Yes.
Camille brought up a phenomenal point with the video cameras. We're seeing 1/10 of the story.
Right.
And, for the people that have never been in a situation, and I'm not talking about life and death. I'm talking about if you've never been in an altercation, a real fight. I'm not talking about your jujitsu on Thursday morning and your boxing class on Saturday. And I'm sure you're a great boxer and a great jujitsu guy. But what I'm talking about is a real situation where you could get very, very hurt or killed in a situation. If you've never been in that situation and then you Monday morning quarterback, it's awful. When I hear all the time, oh, the handcuffs were on. How did he hit him? In the excitement is a horrible word. In the misery and the filth and the total exhaustion and the fear, and there is fear, and if you're not afraid, there's something wrong. Yeah, right, there's something wrong with you. During all of that, like you just said, have to make a split second decision. If the cuffs go on and you're still doing your thing, oh, for God's sakes, once again, common sense, knock it off, stop acting like an animal, and you won't be treated in a bad way.
Very good.
Good.
I have to go back because It reminds me of a story when you mentioned boxing, okay? And I know a lot about your past and your boxing prowess. And you had told me a story, and it was during my interviews with you when we were doing the book, the Copservations book, and you were in detention. And there was if I remember, there was an inmate that was just not going along with the rules and very combative. And I don't remember all the facts, but would you mind telling that story? Because it was a pretty funny story.
Thanks for bringing up the horror that. And by the way, the guys that I were with, they're no longer here, so that's fine. They both have retired, as has everybody just about.
Yeah, well,
age.
You're going till you're 80, so don't worry about
it's a shame. But I love my job. So yes, real quick, there was an inmate in the jail, and somehow he got out of his cell, and me and two guys went in there, and I thought I was a tough guy, and I'll tell you, you learn a lot. In the jail. The jail is a fantastic experience. I wouldn't trade it for anything. I still stay in touch with a lot of those guys. Just an amazing group of guys in there, and girls, of course, and it's just a fantastic place to work. But we had a crazy guy, Signal 20. He was just absolutely on every med ever, and somehow he was able to force the cell open. So I thought I was a tough guy, went in there with two other tough guys, and we did our thing, and the next thing I know, I had no choice whatsoever, and I hit him, and I have some experience, and I hit him good. And he looked at me, he laughed, and he said, "Good day for me, good day for me." And the other guy, and it was a long day, and it was a tough situation. So you do learn a lot. You learn humility on the street and in corrections as well.
And sometimes you got to know when to back away.
You sure do.
Yeah. We're definitely getting a little off topic. And
how does that happen?
Well, when I'm with you, it's
True. A lot of fun. I'm having a great time.
Just a good time. You know, I've often said that police officers are like the garbage men of society. We clean up other people's messes. And a lot of times people think we're not as intelligent as they think we're stupid. But they expect us to know everything. And on the occasions where we're asked questions and we don't know the answer, a lot of times, I've heard it in the past, but you're a police officer. You know, we're supposed to know these things. On the other hand, a lot of times the answers that we give these people, they don't like. You know, it's the wrong answer. Or it's, you know, what do you do?
Yep, no, that's very true. You're expected to know everything, and I know very little. In fact, I could say I don't know anything, but you are expected to be an expert. There's two things as a police officer. You have to know everything, you have to be everything, and you have a great pension. Those are the two things that you hear all the time as a police officer. And just very quickly, about that, you know, again, I'm half a moron. I have a college degree. I was a teacher, but I really am. So when you ask me something, you know, keep going, because I'm probably not going to give you the right answer, but I'll do it the best I can. But a lot of people do ask about the pension. They ask about, you're set and things like that once you retire. But I do want to just touch on that very quickly, so that people again can get a feeling of really what it's like, which is what this amazing show is about. What it really is like to be a police officer. I have 30 years, 29 years. You have how many years? 470.
65, don't push it.
It's amazing. In fact, you were there when Moses parted the seas. That nobody got wet. It's amazing how that could possibly happen.
Not only that, but there were no radios back then.
No.
And if you needed help, you had to bang your staff on the ground 3 times to summon assistance.
That's right. And when you wrote a ticket, you had to use that thing.
The tablet. There was a tablet.
Right. Yeah, it was years ago. But anyway, everybody always talks about the pension. But what they don't realize is, listen, I have a good example is, if you want to retire after 25 years of really challenging work, you would be working around the clock. I have 2 friends of mine. I'm not going to use their real names, obviously. There's no way. But I have, they're married, and they're both police officers. One's name is Ange, and that's a made-up name, and one's is Cher, but, that's a made-up name, too. Cher is the singer.
I might know these.
Yeah, it's just a made-up name. But here's the thing. So, here's what's going to happen. They work literally 24 hours a day, and they both have ridiculously hard jobs. I'm not going to say exactly what the jobs are, but the jobs are very, very hard, very challenging. Most people, I couldn't do what they do. But here's the way it's going to work. So because they work around the clock, and when I say around the clock, I mean, that means they push off other responsibilities. Maybe they don't get to do things with their children that other people with a 9-to-5 job could.
Right, the sacrifices that they make.
A lot of sacrifices they make. And here's what's going to happen. When they do retire in the 25th year, people are going to say, look at them, they're so lucky, they get to leave after 25 years. I'm still working with my 401k. What they don't realize is if they were putting in the time that they put in, they could also leave, especially with Trump. And I'm not a political guy because I don't care about Trump in anything or any way. But the bottom line is that, especially with the market, and then they always say, oh, there's no market. Who cares? I'm not in the market. If you're in a 401k or anything like that, you are in the market. Yeah.
There are two things I've learned over the years in my career that people are fascinated with cops, but most wouldn't, couldn't, or are afraid to do the job. The second thing I've learned is it's a love-hate relationship. They love us when they need us, and when there's any other interactions, it's usually the opposite. And when something good happens, they never call us. We never get invited to parties unless it's from a neighbor that's calling to complain about the noise. And maybe that's why people love firemen.
True.
Firemen never do anything that's negative. They rescue people. They render first aid. Everything is positive, and God bless them to do a fantastic job. Do you ever hear? Or do you ever really hear somebody say, "Oh, hey, wave to the police"? It's usually, "Hey, wave to the firemen and run quick! It's the cops."
Well, it's funny you say that. So I was just talking with a few people just a couple of days ago. The number one pet peeve of a police officer is you just nailed it. You ever walk down the street and you feel so bad for them. Listen, my kids did it. You know what I'm saying, right? This is the number one pet peeve out of everyone I know that we all talk about. So if you're doing it out there, make sure you knock it off. So here's what happens. So you'll be in Publix or wherever you're in, and there'll be a kid who's carrying on. Oh, they're carrying on, and your heart bleeds for them. By the way, it's embarrassing. Sure. It's torturous. And they're carrying, and then they see you.
Yeah.
And they look at you and they say, if you keep that up, he's going to take you to jail. And the first thing I do is I say, oh, I would never take you to jail. We don't take good kids to jail. That breeds contempt, nervousness, and fear.
Absolutely.
At an early age. And as they get older, they just build on that.
Yeah.
And they're worried about police officers. When I'm lucky enough to work with Joe DiMaggio's Children's Hospital. We all went there quite a few times. Kids with cancer, some of the saddest things we ever saw. I mean, there were a bunch of us that used to go there.
Let me interrupt you for a second, because there's a caller on the air who I had the
this might be the first band.
No, this should be a good one.
Oh, good.
But hang on one second. Let's see what this is. Hello, caller. You're on the air with Copservations.
Yes, I noticed the phone number is 954, and I believe that's a Florida number. I researched I googled the area code. Is this in Broward County, Fort Lauderdale area?
Yes, it would be.
Okay, and this is open for any topic of discussion?
Yes, should be.
Relating to police work?
Yes.
Okay, I have a question. I've been reading some articles. I'm retired NYPD, and I have family that live in Broward County, and I'm reading some articles that the local sheriff, who was removed by Governor Ron DeSantis for apparently legitimate reasons, because it was verified and validated by different layers, like the state Supreme Court, and he's going to be running for sheriff again. And my colleagues up here find it a little bizarre that this man, who, based on for all intents and purposes, was responsible for the 17 deaths in Stoneman Douglas High School, and I want to know what their opinion is of that. The local police officers down there who are part of the law enforcement apparatus that were part of that. What do they think about that? Because up here in the New York City Police Department, we are a little taken aback by the fact that this man is putting himself back in the political arena. It seems as if he keeps claiming that it was political why the governor removed him, but it looks like it was his political power grab that caused the problem. Do they agree with that?
Well, I don't know what they agree with at all, but the bottom line is if he's going to run again, you can't stop anybody from running. Everybody's got a right to run for office. And when it comes time to get to the polls, that'll tell. Hang on one second. We're going to go to a quick break, and we'll get right back to you.
Get ready for the day, buddy.
Hey, Dad. Hey, Dad. Do we have a gun?
What's that?
Do we have a gun?
Why do you ask that, kiddo?
Can I play with it?
No, absolutely not. It's not a toy. You know that.
Do I? I bet it looks like one.
Yeah, well, it's not. Anyway, I need it to protect you, your sister and Mom.
From what?
From bad guys, like on TV.
But what about the 8 kids who get shot every day by mistake? Their daddies probably thought they were safe too.
Where'd you hear that?
TV.
Yeah, well, maybe we don't believe everything we hear on TV.
Where do you keep it?
It's hidden.
I bet it's on the top shelf of the closet, under your sweatshirts. Is it loaded?
It's not. I keep the
In
bullets.
the boots with the red laces, and the chest beside the bed? I haven't found them yet, but I'm sure I can. You always told me to be curious. Remember when I found my Christmas gift? I'm a good climber, you know.
No, that's not what I meant. Look, I need to be ready if someone breaks in.
But what about when it's just me and Mom? You taught me to be brave. I could use the gun to protect her.
No, Justin, I promise. I'll teach you how to handle a gun when you're old enough.
And what if I don't make it to old enough? I could get bullied and decide it's too much for me. It would be so easy with our gun.
Our gun? No, buddy. My gun.
But it is our gun. In our home. Happens all the time.
I'll make sure that doesn't happen. I'm always here for you.
But Dad, you're not always here.
Talk to our hosts? Call the podcast studio at area code 954-210-5413. That's 954-210-5413.
Hey, and welcome back to Copservations. It's almost time to wrap things up again, and I want to thank my very special guest and friend, Richie. You were fantastic, and I hope you come back, and I'm sure everybody that's listening really enjoyed you. And as at the end of every episode, we honor the lives of our fallen brothers and sisters. Today, we honor Officer Melissa Jane Schmidt of the Minneapolis Police Department, whose end of watch was on this day, August 1st, back in 2001. Officer Schmidt was shot and killed after she and her partner responded to a call reporting a woman with a gun at a public housing complex. Contact was made with the 60-year-old female suspect, and while the officers were questioning her, she said she needed to go to the bathroom. Officer Schmidt escorted the woman to the public restroom in the lobby of the building. While in the restroom, the woman produced a handgun and opened fire, striking Officer Schmidt in the abdomen below her vest. Officer Schmidt was able to return fire and kill the suspect. Sadly, she succumbed to her wounds. Officer Schmidt served with the Minneapolis Police Department for more than 6 years and previously served with the United States Marine Corps. Officer Schmidt is survived by her parents and brother. I want to thank you for watching, and I hope you will join us again next Thursday at 7 for another episode of Copservations. And before we go, I just want to let you can also see Copservations on YouTube at Metaphor Creative Media on YouTube. I'd also like to take this opportunity to thank my producers, Danny and Anthony. I'd like to thank Ashley and Nicole for helping back in the control room. Richie, I want to thank you again. I want to give a shout out to my daughter, Danielle, my wife, Tony, my boys, Michael, Chris, Charlie, Lisa, all my grandchildren. Richie, I would love to have you come back. You made this an experience.
Flew by. I had a lot of fun, man. Thanks for having me.
Not only that, there's a lot of topics I wanted to cover that we didn't get to.
Get to any of them, right?
So
it's a good time.
Everybody, thank you again, and we hope to see you next week.